Good evening, viewers. The Idea Factory wishes you on the auspicious occasion of Mahalaya and the forthcoming Durga Puja greetings. With that positive note, we are back with another program in association with Mr. TUHIN Mukherjee of iSTRATEGIC Consulting. Today, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. Let us remember that we have discussed the concept of sales of MSME consulting and how we can help improve the sales aspect of MSMEs. Sales is always a challenge for a small company because without a proper banner, without resource crunch, and without a familiarity for the customer to buy products, so it's quite a challenge for the MSME, and we have touched upon these in the previous episodes also. Today, once again, we are going to touch upon the concept of sales through a topic called continuous sales improvement. And we are going to explore the sales aspect from that angle. With that backdrop, my first question to Mr. TUHIN Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, what is the concept of continuous sales improvement?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Majumdar. Basically, it's a kind of Japanese concept where we need to continuously improve something. So in today's organization, we cannot stay stagnant because it's a kind of the journey that where we need to improve everything. So sales is not an exception means regarding this also. So in the sales, if you see that there is a kind of the curve sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down. It's a nature of everything because we cannot control the kind of the movement when something goes in between. So it's a kind of then means obvious reason that something goes up and there is also slack means when it comes down, but continuously we have to improve. It's a kind of the incremental growth that we need to count every time, because we have to, if we need to stay ahead of the competition, so it is a kind of the thing that we need to consider that always there is an incremental growth in our sales curve. So that is called the sales continuous sales improvement. If you are actually not measuring it, probably we cannot stay ahead of the competition. And sales is a kind of the thing that is directly related with the revenue. If sales is not happening properly, revenue will be impacted. And that is why that continuous sales improvement is very much required. And we need to also understand the kind of the inputs means that kind of the factors, variable and the fixed factor are responsible for the sales improvement. So these are the factors we need to control. If we cannot control this factor, the means sales is going to come down, because it's obvious reason that it will not stay ahead or it will not actually grow incrementally. It will come down. So we need to actually understand which factors are responsible and how we can add always incremental value, means incremental addition in the sales curve. That is called the sales continuous sales improvement, and it's very important in today's volatile environment and also the competitive environment where there's a fierce competition. We are in a kind of the red oceans where the competition is coming from many areas or many directions. So in this kind of the thing, we need to do that. So that is called the continuous sales improvement. Now, my next question will be, Mr. Majumdar, what is peak performance?
Right. As you have rightly said, continuous sales improvement is the process of breaking up the entire sales target into smaller steps, like breaking it up into smaller steps, and whether we are moving up the ladder in this concept. So I think that is the obvious methodology of that, and therefore there is this periodic measurement of the sales achievements versus targets. So it could be a daily, and there could be a weekly, and there could be a fortnightly, and then could be a monthly target measurement. Having said that, within, as you have rightly said, within the certain input parameters, there is a particular point at which the sales will peak for a particular individual or for a particular team, which means that within the budget that you are working on the parameters that you are, the maximum that a person can achieve within that, the best performer can achieve is reaches in the week number 4. Okay, and similarly each performer performs well, and maybe they can also achieve in the week number 4. So which essentially means that it takes 4 weeks to reach to the highest level of achievement of sales, provided certain parameters are met in the process. Okay, so that would be measured as a peak performance, which is essentially the kind of the maximum output of the individual or the team within the parameter that they are in. Now, if you increase the input parameter, for example, if you increase the marketing spend, then the whole approach changes, and then you go into a next cycle in which again, if you measure the gradual improvement, maybe the peak parameter will achieve in the week 5. And if you take up the total of the entire individuals out there, and you will see that the peak performance is happening at the end of the week 5 within the parameters that you are in. If you incrementally increase the input parameters, you will definitely get the gradual improvement in the peak performance. Within the same parameters, perhaps after some point in time, there will be a certain amount of stagnation on the sales front of it, because sales, marketing, customer service, they are all interrelated. You cannot just expect people to sell continually without giving the right support of marketing, or without giving the right support of customer service. The finance also has to come in picture. So many, in fact, the entire other elements of the organization comes into picture. And this perhaps is the key element of continuous sales improvement, when we are actually saying that you can achieve the peak within the parameters, and then you measure how the peak is improving over the cycles. So if in your first the first stage, if you get a peak as X, so obviously in the next stage it will be 2X, and then in the next stage it will be 2X, and slowly your organization will increase in terms of the sales that you can achieve over a period of time. This also means that your number of team members will also have to increase over a period of time, and slowly, so the entire gamut of activities focused on the sales part will slowly increase, and the organization is also geared up to improve the overall support to the sales team to achieve that continuous sales improvement. I think this is the kind of a snapshot of what I'm saying. My next question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, what is sales mountain?
Sales mountain is basically, mountain means where actually we're going on the top. The sales is a kind of, if you see the curve, so sales mountain is that the sales has to be always on the top. It has to be on the peak areas. So sales mountain, if you are not actually climbing up the mountain, means that sales numbers are not actually going to be high. The organization is going to surely face the problem. It's a kind of the thing that I have seen that various kind of the techniques are applied where they are reducing the cost and increasing the profit. So these philosophies are well taken, but ultimately the sales has to be on the top, means that there has to be the graph has to go up. It's a kind of the mountain where the sales will actually grow every time. So it's a kind of the curve, that is that if you see the kind of the if you see any mountain, so there is a mountain is actually starting, and there is a kind of that it is going in a means a steep curve is going where there is a peak of the mountain. So sales mountain is kind of the thing that it is also divided in various parts or the stages. So sales mountain is very important for the all the organization to follow, because it needs to go certain kind of the stage and certain kind of the process to actually go to that peak or go to that means a high area zone. So that is sales mountain, and the sales mountain needs to be achieved, without which the organization cannot actually get the respect means expected revenue. This is very important, because there are a lot many techniques are aware that they are actually means organizations or many philosophers are also saying to increase the profit by reducing the cost, increasing the efficiencies. These are well taken. There is no doubt about it. But sales, if there is no proper sales growth and the sales numbers are not actually climbing up to the mountain, probably the organization cannot stay in this kind of the competitive environment for a long time. This is a very important part that we need to understand. So every organization needs to follow this kind of the strategy very carefully. Means the organization needs to follow the sales mountain. So my next question to Mr. Majumdar is that how the organization can stay in the peak, means can stay in the peak performance zone, means how they can mobilize themselves in the peak performance area.
Right. I think what is more important is to watch as we coming back to the peak performance zone, because we are when we see that the element that the team or the individual is performing best at a certain period of after a certain amount of time, and then he brings in X number of customers within that week, which is perhaps his highest achievement so far, and then we understand why he's been able to get it, and we try to stay in that stage over an extended period of time. So typically, it is not that you achieve the peak target. So there is a chance of, it can also taper out if you don't hold it properly. But once you reach the peak performance zone, or you identify that this is the maximum we can achieve during that period of time, so you can actually stretch the peak performance over an extended period of time, which means that the sales can actually increase over a period of time. This is typically, now I think this is more related to the small price businesses. Typically, I would say maybe the FMCG or telecom or the retail businesses which are pricing is low and the quantity is very high. Yeah, and typically, I would say in telecom we used to see huge number. The ramp up would definitely happen over the months, and they would stay in that ramp up period for a very longer period of time. There was a continuous focus on the sales part, and they would continually stay in that zone for a longer period of time, and that has actually helped them garner huge number of customers at a very high speed at an initial level, which enables them to build up a critical mass at a very crucial period of time. Those, on the other hand, I have also worked in companies where they have not been able to pick up because they wanted to set everything right and then go to the market, and things were slow. Of course, the first company was also moving very fast, and but they also had some they had set up the things very fast, but this company took time, and in the process the competition has completely taken over the first the customer set, and by the time this company went, there would be a switching customer, and obviously the new customer versus switching customer, the switching customer was definitely lesser in number and not so many of them, because it is the churning amount, it was not the so many. So the second company could not get the advantage of the huge number which the industry where people were buying for the first time, and whereas the first company was very fast, it moved very fast, the second company could not move fast and could not take advantage of the fact that the market was ready to buy the product. There was complete sales happening in the market, but the company was not there. By the time it went there, all the sales actually had happened. So these are typical given example of that, and I'm sure in today's world these things are even better, because with all the technological support that you are taking, this would be reach the market even faster. So speed is also very, very important to reach out to the market. So once you go to the market, you should be there in hundreds and thousands of numbers, so that whenever the customer is there, when you are able to reach out to the customer in large numbers as a first mover, assuming that the product is new, the product is innovative, the product is bring something new to the table, you should be able to encash on the fact when the word spreads that this product is good, and people should buy it. I think these are some of the thoughts that are going, but typically you have to harp on the fact that you achieve your maximum target and you stay on that zone over a very long period, over quite a period of time, so that maximum, so the curve is actually after that it will taper down for sure, but to stay at the top level for a longer period of time of 3 to 4 weeks or whatever, depending upon the industry or the company, or maybe 2 months or so, but stay in the maximum level, and then things are going to settle down. Please remember, many businesses are cyclical, and because they are cyclical, there are chances of lesser sales at certain period of time and higher sales at certain period of time. Normally, the businesses generally understand. For example, if this is the festival period, you can see so much amount of festivals and sales happening at this period of time, and so most of the businesses are very clear this is the period that people are going to buy for the whole year. And so all your electronic goods, all your fashion materials, so many things are available out here. So this is also a bit of a seasonal. So this Durga Puja, Diwali, these are all seasonal periods, and the sales increase very high, and the company should be able to encash upon that and stay on that. So the festival offer should continue, and then they might change the mood, because then the season gets over, then you have to go into the the festive, the Christmas is coming, the New Year is coming, so the tone will change. But latch on to the festive mode till January, February, and a lot of sales are going to happen through that. I think these are some of the thoughts that are going in my mind. My next question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, what is the strategy of continuous sales improvement?
Yes. Basically, we need to understand the factors which are responsible for actually getting the sales done, because there are some factors external and some factors are internal. Now, say that if we consider that there is a means a festival, so sales is going up. That is a kind of the demand that actually happens every year. That's a kind of the seasonal demand, or any kind of the seasonal product like that umbrella when it is in demand in the basically rainy season. So these are the factors which are actually responsible means to create a demand, basically external factors. But there are also some of the internal factors in the organization that we need to understand. Because if we need to have if we need to stay on the peak performance zone, so external forces always there, we cannot actually eliminate, or we cannot actually external force also we cannot even control also, but the internal factors we can surely control. When we can control the internal factors, probably the thing is that we can actually stay ahead of the competition and we can mobilize ourselves in the high performance zone. That is the main thing that we need to understand, because if it is a seasonal product or if it's a kind of the festival led driven sales, so that is there, it is always is to happen. But internal factors are, if it is not in a proper areas, means proper place, if we cannot control the internal factors, inputs are not in a proper place, so probably thing is that we cannot stay. We might sometime get a high sales, but it will surely come down. So that is why actually there is a momentum, there is a kind of the pendulum momentum, or it's, we say the bell shape kind of the curve, it happens in the sales, or it is there in every organization sales graph, when it is going to the top and it is again coming down. It's a nature basically, but the thing is that our objective is to stay ahead of the competition and to mobilize ourselves in the high performance zone. So when we want to establish or we want to mobilize ourselves in the high performance zone, our basic idea should be to control all the internal factors, and we should actually place ourselves in a such a way that we can get a continuous sales. So that is called the continuous sales improvement, that when every time we get some kind of the incremental sales and we can mobilize ourselves in high performance zone. So that is how that continuous sales improvement can happen. All those, and these are the basically means internal factors, those are responsible for that, means apart from the external factors. So internal factors must be controlled, and that is how we can actually get the higher sales. Now, my next questions is to next question is to Mr. Majumdar, is that what idea factory can actually strategically do to improve the sales, means continuous the sales improvement.
Right. I think Idea Factory has a has a strong role to play, and we do recommend a lot of things for continuous sales improvement. Typically, sales is actually the revenue earning machine of the organization. So if sales drop, a lot of backend support get affected, and obviously the organization is the movement of the organization is dependent on the sales that is happening. Okay, so that is very important for the sales to be always under pressure. The sales team is to be always under pressure. But let us also remember, we always try to say that your product or the customer's product should actually have something very new and unique for the his customer to buy the product, because we are talking about innovative stuff, and we believe that our customer's product will be something unique which solves our customer's problem. That is a very, very important thing, and he should be the kind of a first time user of that product category. So if he is using it for the first time and you are the first person to give it to him, that automatically brings a certain amount of pull factor in the market. But at the same time, what is very important is that if as soon as you see traction in the market, there will be competition catching up. And as soon as the competition catches up, you have to increase your speed in reaching out to the customer even more. And as we rightly said, if you don't move very fast, your competition might be more bigger than you in terms of size, and he might move the market faster and he may catch up your customer. Essentially, this could be your customers, but since you did not move faster, they could have got. So one important thing is that your product has to be unique. Secondly, you have a very fast sales team, which means whenever you're doing a campaign, is to be a time bound activity, and you should get a maximum number of customers within that 2 months or so. Especially many of the companies do a time bound activity in around February, March, when the year is ending, and within that period a special campaign is given, and your company your sales happen. So typically for continuous sales improvement, typically what we are saying is that we have to remove the seasonality and slowly we have to improve the performance throughout the year. So the seasonality is already there. Now what we are trying to say, you have to improve your sales every quarter, every week, every month, every quarter. And that is quite a challenge because you have to continuously be in the market over a period of time. That means you have to have a better product, and also your variant should come out in the market in the next 2-3 months. So every 2-3 months there has to be some excitement in the market by the kind of variant that you bring in, so that the customer is always confused to see whether you buy this or whether you buy that, and your product should always be ahead of the competition in terms of bringing the new product in the market. So in the process, there's so much of excitement in the market. Customers will always be trying to find out your new thing. Of course, there has to be marketing spend around that. You have to be communicating. There have to be videos around it, and in the whole process, and you have to have a proper measurement matrix. The proper measurement matrix will essentially help you build up the momentum in the market over the weeks, over the months, so that you had a continuous improvement and also remain in the peak zone. So even if you're improving, you are performing in the peak zone. So even if you're in the next cycle of performance, which means that if your marketing spend has increased and you are already come with a new product variant, you are in the next cycle. But in the process, what happens? You are already performing in the peak performance. So essentially, you understand that this is the time, or this is the environment over which my team can perform the maximum product. Okay, so it's always the sales has to be high, the service has to be very nearby, very quickly given to them. The finance has to be support, maybe the financial support or a loan agreement has to be in place in case of high expensive customers, and the whole mechanism has to move in very high speed with the customer. So while you are SMEs or MSMEs, it is also important to move very fast in the market. And if you want to move because your product is so unique, and if you want to catch the customer first hand, to build also repeat customer is about building up a relationship with the customer. While you buy it, they will always try you out for the first time. They will also want to have a relationship, and then only they will be able to buy your product a second time or a third time, and they are the real customers of yours. Someone who buys it for the second time or the third time is the real customer for you. Okay, the first time users are trying, but the second time user or a third time user is your loyal customer. So to hold on to that, you have to invest in the relationship with the customer, not just sell the product. Like the original FMCG model. Now all businesses are relationship based, and if you want to maintain, and you will get rich dividends if your customer is happy with you and you are just a phone call away in terms of the issues that the customer is facing. I think these are some of the top level thoughts that are in my mind in terms of continuous sales improvement. And my question to Mr. Mukherjee, Mr. Mukherjee, what are the suggestions from iSTRATEGIC side over continuous sales improvement?
Basically, yeah, it's a kind of the structured process that we follow. Basically, we try to do the consumer mind mapping, CMM, what the consumer is actually expecting, and how this process is going to actually take place. Means if we actually want to sell a product, how this product is going to solve the customer problem, and how the customer is actually perceiving that product. So that we start with the CMM, customer mind mapping, and throughout the journey, means the product journey, means we actually map it out. So then we understand that whether the product is doing really well or not. If there is a kind of the improvement that we need to do, we suggest. So, and after that, we strategically we try to understand what are the factors are responsible to make the sales happen, and what kind of the incremental factors are, means what are the factors mainly responsible to increase the sales, means if we need to have a incremental sales, what are the factors that we need to consider. So after doing this kind of the research work, and we need to try to understand, and we form basically we actually do suggest kind of the strategies. It's a very kind of the structured strategy where the organization can understand what they need to do to increase the sales and how they can actually stay ahead in the competitive area, means basically the peak performance areas or peak performance zones. So that is very important for them, and we must say that it's a kind of the ongoing strategies that we actually help with the organization, because once the strategy is set and it is done, it doesn't mean that it is going to actually have a it's going to help the organization forever. They need to actually do it periodically, because if they need to stay ahead of the competition, it is not a one time game. It is a continually they have to do it, and continually means they need to understand the factors to increase their sales. So that is why we say that continuous sales improvement, and there is a totally structured method through which we do it, and we do it very successfully for the organization, so that organization can stay ahead of the competition and they can get more sales and revenue. So that is the offer from the iSTRATEGIC, and Mr. Majumdar also explained how Idea Factory can help and help with their strategies, the organization to stay ahead of the competition. So this is the offer from both of us. I think that we have explained that what we can do and how the things can be done. So, Mr. Majumdar, do you want to share anything?
No, I think we have given it. Maybe we can touch upon a slightly detailed framework at a later stage, because at this point we have only discussed the basic approach and methodology, and a detailed framework can always come in future discussions and sessions. Happy Diwali, Durga Puja greetings from our side, and wish you all the very best from our side. Thank you so much for the session.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.